Watch out for the hole.
What hole?
Watch out for the portable hole. Rock out to the portable hole. Watch out for the portable hole. Rock out to the portable hole.
Welcome to the Portable Hole Podcast. I'm Ryan George, and I'm here with my good friends Justin and Cinik. We're all three together again. How you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah, back again, Ryan. I can't wait to get into all this content we have, especially me and Justin's big matchup in fantasy baseball this week.
Oh yeah. So if you notice us like looking down, we're checking our head to head right now, and so far I'm winning.
So actually,
I believe that we should stop the count.
We have a lot to go over. So I actually we don't have any news for today. So yeah, do you want to update me? What's going on
before we get any further, let's talk about that Conor McGregor fight. That's now not going to happen.
Oh yeah,
your good friend Cinik told you about a month ago that it probably wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. What was the injury? So the supposed injury,
undisclosed, Ryan. You know, the most fatal type of injury. Made up. Because if it was something legitimate, right away he would disclose it. Oh, I blew out a knee, bad shoulder. It was undisclosed.
Yeah, exactly. So is there going to be is there a fight coming? Like, is there going to be like does Chandler have a
no?
My brain's not working right now. Does he have an opponent for the fight, or
he does not? They went ahead and rescheduled Alex Pereira and Popovich. I think
at least.
Yeah, I mean, the show goes on, but it's the point that I felt like Conor never wanted this fight. He was never going to take this fight. He wasn't taking it seriously, and now he's out of it.
No, what was the point for him to take any of this?
Just attention. He's out of the game. He's no longer a viable fighter. It keeps shine on his social media accounts because that's what he's become. He's become very Trump-like in the fact that most of his battling is done on Twitter.
Okay, I mean, it's sad. But not I guess not unexpected. Especially at this point, it's like I don't think his heart's in fighting the way it was. So, be a millionaire or billionaire or whatever. Not billionaire, but however much money you have and enjoy life.
Is he is he en route to do another movie?
Who knows?
Well, there has been talk of a sequel to that movie. I don't know if it's going to happen or not.
God, I mean, I think I'm good with the Conor McGregor Roadhouse version. So maybe something else. Maybe he could be a villain in the next like Expendables movie or something like that.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Probably not unrealistic. So what's your guys' deal with fantasy baseball? So where you got a big matchup today?
Well, yeah, it is a very David versus Goliath type matchup. As the Cinik Radio Undraftables is now 12-0 in the league. And now, mind you, some of Justin's losses have came before he picked up the team, and he's a scrappy little guy. I mean, he's gotten a few victories, so it's time for him to take on the reigning champ.
It's like, oh, shocker! The president of the league, who could draft all his own best players and has first dibs over everything and can make decisions, has the best record. Who would have thought?
It sounds like you're whinging. I'm not quite sure, but it really sounds like you might be whinging.
Right.
Look, I'm just pointing out the obvious.
Ryan, he's complaining and his mouth is moving. He's whinging.
Yeah, I'm interested. It's too bad I don't know all the details. It'd be interesting, but Justin would probably complain about it if it was not winning. So I could see how probably just Justin complained. But all right. So is there anything else that's happened in the last week, pop culture wise, that we need to talk about, or should we just get into the reviews?
No, I think we're good. I mean, the big thing pop culture wise is what's going on the TV right now.
I want to get the name of this. It was pretty cool. What was it called? 2 Girls, 1 Cup. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. So there is a I think there's a Netflix series called Untold.
Okay.
It's or is this was it the series, or maybe that was the name of the documentary? It was pretty cool. It was about a team in basically it was about sort of like a mafia guy who buys a minor league hockey team for his son. And the hockey team, and he this guy loved hockey, but he also loved professional wrestling. So he like brought this pro wrestling mentality to his hockey league, and he basically encouraged. They threw a lot of money at the players, so they got good players. They even brought in an NHL ringer when the league was on strike, and basically they encouraged their players to like fight all the time. They sort of made a mockery of the game, but in doing so, it became very popular. Mm-hmm. So if you like sports documentaries, it's Untold: Crime and Penalties. Nice. Yeah, and it's about a team. Where was it? It was in somewhere in Connecticut, I think, where the team was. Pretty good stuff. Cinik, it's kind of up your alley. You like stuff like that, so I would check it out.
Cool. All right, so we got 3 things to talk about. We're not going to go deep into the Acolyte. But want to talk a little bit about episode 3, and then we'll talk about The Boys season episodes 1 to 3, which Justin's watched and Cinik hasn't yet, and then House of the Dragon season 2 episode 1, which Cinik has seen and Justin hasn't. So we'll knock those out. So I guess let's start with the Acolyte. So are you Justin? You watched episode 3 as well, right?
I started watching it.
All right. Well, doesn't matter.
So it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
Hard to watch.
There's some good ideas that we're not well thought out or well put together, I guess. But anyway, so it takes us back. So it goes back right away 16 years to when Osha and May are kids. Cinik, what do you think about the idea of like doing a flashback episode when we're barely 2 episodes into a series where we don't know any of the characters or what's going on?
I think it goes to what you've been saying the last couple of weeks. If it's done well, then they can do anything they want. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the episode overall, the things they've been doing well, which aren't so many to name, but you did name a few, they did well. They continue to do well.
Yeah.
The things they haven't, like the writing and the logic, that's maintained the same course. And I'm trying to be nice because I don't want to seem like a hate monger. It is Pride Month.
Well, I mean, that's the problem, right? Like, the more I think about it, like, it's funny. I want this show to do well because, there are those obnoxious fans who are just angry that, like, there's black and gay characters in the show. And so, like, I want this show to be good because there are people that are going to hate this show no matter what, right? And it's just frustrating because it's just the writing is so poor that it makes it's tough to watch. And there's some good ideas. Like, I like the idea of like, okay, so there's witches in Star Wars, which we've gotten since like the Clone Wars. And they use the Force, but they call it the Thread. And I like that kind of bit of world building where you have different people who access the Force and have their different ideas and views on how it works, right? Like the Jedi are these kind of wizards, and you have these witches, but like they're doing the same thing but calling it, it's a different name. And then kind of going to the idea that like the twins, obviously this is spoilers, everything we're talking about today is spoilers, so yeah. But you have these twins that were born without a male. So, and this ties directly to like Anakin Skywalker, but like then not really giving. I mean, maybe they will give us more about it, but there are these ideas that are interesting, but it's just mixed in with such bad writing, such bad dialogue. What were your thoughts, Cinik, on the 2 kids and kind of how they were? I mean, I don't want to criticize their performances, but what they were given to do. Was it believable as 2 kids or two sisters that are inseparable?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, they kind of suffered from the same thing that happened to the kid that played Anakin.
Yeah.
When the writing falters, how much is a child going to be able to act their way out of it?
Yeah. I had a hard time though with the kind of some of the way that they were bickering. Like, it's like, kids bicker, but it didn't feel real to me. It's kind of like they would. You mean
I know you are, but what am I fight that they had?
Yeah, exactly.
And now I'm going to burn you alive.
Or like, don't leave. I'm going to kill you. Like out of nowhere. Like what? It just.
Well, look, how much of it? And I don't defend the show much, but for that sequence, like how much of that is just like it's a TV show, and how much dialogue? Because when kids argue, most of the what they say is unintelligible. But like, how much of do you have to sort of suspend your disbelief?
Yeah, I guess so.
Stretch it,
But it's highlighted when everything else is kind of poorly done. Like you even have this situation in the show where so basically you have these 2 twins who are going through a ceremony called the Ascension, and they're stopped by Jedi, and the Jedi are like, well, they're kids. You can't do this. You can't train kids. And then in the next breath, but we're gonna take them and see if we can train them, and they live with us for life, and they'll never see that. So it's like, isn't that hypocritical, or like what sense does that make?
They're doing this weird thing where they're boxing the Jedi in as the villains in the story, and I don't love that. I mean, I know that there's the contrarian part of the fan base that always has to jump to the other side of the argument and say, well, the Jedi are evil or the Jedi are hypocritical, but the Jedi have always been heroes. They've always sided on the side of good, and they've always done the right thing in all the stories. And for somebody to come along and change it to suit their narrative, it doesn't work for me. But I mean, I've already laid out what I think is going to happen with the rest of the series, so I don't want to ruin it for anybody. But I just want to say, being a Star Wars fan, to me, always felt like being a geek. And being a geek meant that we were the outcasts. Like, it wasn't cool back then to like this sort of stuff. So we accepted everybody. If there was a girl, regardless of who she wanted to date, that liked Star Wars, she became my best friend. And I think that it maintained that way until this kind of started to warp, where it's being a geek now is somehow the in thing to do. And people are doing it to up their social media account. And why not pair that with some social justice worrying, and you have yourself a half-written TV show.
Yeah, I still I don't believe. I think it's just poorly written. Like, I don't even honestly, The Boys is far more quote unquote woke than this is. This just has diverse characters, but I don't see it as pushing that as much as it's just bad. Right? Like, that's really it. Like, I don't. I'm actually
going to sort of push back on that a little bit. So, and we'll get to the Boys a little later. The Boys is fake woke. It's satire, and it's making reference to thing, but it's not based.
This season of the, so
I know. We'll get to it.
This season of The Boys is like hitting you over the head with it.
On purpose though, but it's in a different way. That is making pure reference to it. It's satire, and it's making reference to it rather than.
But I'm saying
being fundamental to the characters.
But what about this is fundamental to the characters? You have a coven that are all women, and I'm guessing they're all gay. Like you have a couple that, but it's, to me, it's actually that's the thing. What I'm trying to say is I think this show does a very good job of incorporating diversity in a way that, to me, doesn't feel heavy-handed. It's just there, right? Like it's not done it's not done in a holier than thou way. No. It's not self-righteous. It's not, to me, it's well weaved into the story. It's just that it's such a bad story, and then you have some people that are angry.
It all comes back to that.
It becomes emphasized.
Well, all right,
I don't see it as
the question is
shoehorned. Okay.
So an interesting question with that is, you say it's woven into the story, but and this is more of a theoretical writing question. The fact that they took these approaches, does that handicap the writing at all? Does that push it so that, all right, so you don't think so? It could, if it was written, and I agree, if it was written, once again, if it was written well, we wouldn't be talking about all these woke aspects, right? It would just be natural. But when, and we'll say it again, it's like when it's not good, those are the things you start to focus on. And of course, for people that, for the anti-woke crowd, it becomes a blame game.
No, I get it. And I know there's a meta level of this where the showrunner has settled some things that have upset people. But at the same time, The Boys showrunner has done the same, and he's not, although granted, no. Well, what's funny to me about The Boys, I don't think it's different, but you can tell me why you think it's different. But what's funny with The Boys is The Boys is getting a lot of flack this season. Yeah. And it's wait, what show have you been watching? It's been more subtle the last few years, but this has been a left show and a woke show the entire time. It's just that it's a little bit more on the nose. But no, Cinik, so why do you think it's different?
The difference is that you have one group saying sit down and shut up, and you have another group saying if you don't like it, go watch something else.
I mean, I don't know that. I feel like it's effectively they're saying the same thing, right? They're both saying you don't have to watch
if the show has passed you by, you're free to go watch something else. You're not. Nobody's taken The Boys and say this is what The Boys is now, and you can. If you don't agree with it, then you're a hate monger.
Have they said that? Has a showrunner for said if you don't like this,
there was some statements like that.
That's the big quote. If you hate it, this is on you. This is on you. This shows who you are. And my thing is it diversity, Ryan?
Shaming people to
if it's the whole cast. And to answer your question,
what's
Justin,
wrong with that? right? Like, what? So who cares? What if they? What's wrong with them casting an entire? Like, what? Why does that matter? Like, what about this show? I guess what I'm saying is like, well, okay, no, yeah. What's wrong with that, right? Because we are so used to not seeing that okay, they cast that for the show, and it's not like there are white characters in the show, so it's not as if like they've only cast,
who's a white character in the show?
The what's her name from The Matrix? Tommen from Game of Thrones. The two Padawans are white.
You mean the two people that died right away?
Yeah, which is hilarious actually.
Yeah,
but
it's
still,
not
I mean,
hilarious.
The Padawans are white. But I mean, we to the point that it is a trope that the black character always dies first.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so we get a couple white characters die first in one show, and that's a big deal. Like, I don't
the
see
only
why
white
that's.
characters.
What does it matter?
What does it matter? Because it's terrible writing.
No, that's not terrible writing. Because
they're not dead.
They're not dead because they're white. And
really,
no.
If you
did the showrunner say we killed off the two white characters?
If you intentionally kill the only two white characters right away, like right off the bat, that doesn't say anything to you.
No, I mean, not in this case. Look, you see it all the time with black characters, so it's like, okay, it's different this time around. But
I don't agree when they do that shit either.
But it's a choice in the story. They were not killed because they're white. The white characters happen to be killed, but I don't see like it would be different if it was like they killed them because they're white, like in story with the characters. But I don't see that as an issue. Yeah, okay. If everything coming up in Star Wars is all the white characters being evil and dying, fine. But like.
We're getting there. Give her a couple more series, right?
Hey, what are the first two characters?
66 on white people.
I don't see it. I mean,
get to the back of the Star Destroyer. That's what they're going to tell us. Me and Justin are now second-class citizens.
See, I don't buy it. It's like I don't know. Because I was thinking about that. I just don't see it as part of this show. Like I don't see there is diversity there, but I actually think it's done in a way that it includes. It's like it's not. To me, except for like the mothers, which I still don't see as a big issue, like it was just woven into the show, and even that made sense.
My biggest issue with this was the sing along. I hated the musical number.
Okay, we can agree on that.
It was terrible. We'll land there, and it doesn't handicap the writing, Justin. It came pre-handicapped with its own placard and accessible band.
That's what I was sort of implying. Does it okay?
Well, I mean, look, the writing is bad, but it's bad to me for the sake of being bad, not bad because it's trying to push an agenda. Because I just it is so far, yeah.
So, all right, let's just sort of take a step back. Now, what if you are, and I think that as people that are, I don't know, like Cinik, some sort of weird. I don't know, agnostic.
I like that he cut out just as he said that.
But
wait, it froze for you. What did you say?
Oh, you say it again.
Oh, I said, well, Cinik is some sort of agnostic anarchist, so he doesn't apply. But all right, let's take a look at people that so we are pretty liberal and pretty used to diversity based on where we grew up.
You said diversity in person, not in media. I would say.
What do you mean? Yeah, in person.
So like the last
we grew up,
5 to 10 years, we've seen more, right? But like
in media, I'm saying, but like us personally, we are used to diversity based on how we grew up. In the city, in public schools, just in general, a lot more than other people. So Cinik had brought up this point. What if there is someone who is like the majority audience, a white male of a certain age, who is not racist or may just be fairly apolitical, but is watching this show? Maybe they're not thinking it. The political ideas just they don't watch it, they don't consider it, and now they're watching this show, and there's like, okay, I'm used to seeing characters that are like me or that I've gotten used to over the years, and now there's none of that, and what I was used to is no longer there.
I mean, that's not true though. In this show, maybe, right? But like,
no, in this show,
in
this show, like like should someone who is generally apolitical and watching it, like should that affect them? Like,
no,
and we know it shouldn't.
Yeah.
We know it shouldn't, but rationally speaking, would it?
I mean,
and does that make some? I know we're starting to go off on this.
I think, again,
like,
I
you
think
see where I'm coming from?
There's separate, independent of the what the showrunner said. No, I don't think so, because like, yeah, that's what you see. Like, I see, it's like I'm used to characters that look like me being like the best friend or like the fodder or the guy that dies first, right? So like, should I just, when I see it, should I be upset now because I'm not, I'm not seeing people like me as the best friend? No, like, if being told that you're, I think the showrunner's comments may have made it worse, but I don't think it should affect you, because you know what? Turn the next turn, go through the channels or whatever you're streaming, and you're going to see mostly still characters like you that are leads in most of these things.
Well, here's my problem with what they did. Okay. Disney as a whole, whether it be Marvel or Star Wars, is in a state of flux, and what they're doing and the poor attempt that they're making a Star Wars program is going to make it less likely that we get more Star Wars programming. And that's my biggest problem, is that I mean, just pick a different title to make your stand. We're one that's not as in trouble as the Star Wars property is, because it really is. I mean, but we're probably not going to see a movie for quite a while, because they decided, well, we're going to go with this Rey deal, and nobody wants that. Nobody's clamoring for a Rey movie.
I mean, I think I love Rey, so
but the fan base as a whole isn't. I mean,
so
there's so many stories to tell. So why don't we grab some of the source material and make some of that? And I agree with you, Ryan. I celebrate the fact that there is inclusion in all these stories now. I don't want it to be done at the expense of quality. When they come out with an original black character like Black Panther, who's fucking amazing, I was first in line to buy a ticket. When we do lazy shit and just change a character's race or gender just to do it for inclusion, and it just doesn't make any sense. It's lazy. It's pandering, and it's you guys got to watch the South Park Panderverse episode. It's on, I believe, Paramount. But it's the same thing, like where they take all the characters from South Park and make them women of color, make her a chick, make her gay, and make it lame is the tagline for the whole episode. And that's kind of the way I feel about it. It's like when it's done, when it's original, I'm all for it. When we're just being lazy and recasting, I don't love it.
Okay, well, so what I want to say is this: I agree with you that I don't want there to be less Star Wars, but I think, for me, what I want Disney to understand is Star Wars is bad now, not because of diversity, but because of bad writing. And that's the issue. So I don't want the takeaway to be, and that's what bothers me about like the loud voices, that, the kind of people that are angry just because they saw a black character, right? There are people that have not watched it, but just are going to be angry because they saw that. It's like, I want to make sure that, like, Disney, it's like, you got, write better stories, take more time, put more heart into this, edit it, but make sure that these stories are being told well, not that the issue is diversity, because then you'll get the wrong thing. And you know what, like, let's say Disney does a 150 and say, or 180, and like, all right, you know what, the next 10 shows we're going to be white characters, white leads,
that's never going to happen.
Minority, like, if they go that route and they still write bad stories, then we're still going to get crappy stuff. And so I think that's the more important thing, is that the narrative should be about this. It is poorly written, not like there is diversity hires and that's why it's bad, right? Because it's like, none of the acting is bad, right? Like all the performances are perfectly fine in this, or and most of the Star Wars stuff we've seen, it's not about like bad performance. This is about like stilted dialogue and poorly thought through stories, and this is going, like, look, we had Obi-Wan had suffered from a lot of the same issues that this did, right? Like Mandalorian suffers from a lot of the same issues, or season 3, at least first 2 seasons were good, Andor, I mean, he's white-ish guy, did great because it was brilliantly written. Like, so I think it's like, write good stories, and that should be the issue. That I think, to me, that's a lesson Disney needs to take, is like, let's write some good stuff and not like, let's make stories about white guys.
Yeah,
if
I don't know
white guys, I don't care. But
I don't know
just
where they
make good
lost their
stories.
way as far as I really think it's a question of direction. I didn't really have that many problems with the Obi-Wan Kenobi program as a whole. Like I just thought there was a better story to tell there.
Yeah. No,
You know,
exactly.
their choices were just kind of discombobulated. Like they didn't quite understand the characters or what their place was in the Star Wars universe.
Well, that's been the whole Disney, like the Disney version of Star Wars, and we'll jump off of this now because we spent way more time talking about this than I wanted. But it was actually very good, interesting discussion. But I think that's the issue with where Star Wars is now is like there's a lot of good ideas mixed in with just poor execution. Like almost everything they've done is, even Ahsoka. Like I liked a lot of Ahsoka, but a lot of it was poorly executed. Same thing with Obi-Wan. There were some really good things to like about Obi-Wan when it was focused on Vader and Obi-Wan. And there was lots of, a lot of, like I didn't need to see him, with the kid all the time, so like there were things that almost every series has something interesting. Boba Fett too, but they just all kind of don't. It's like kind of all over the place. So, all right, so Justin, so you watched the first 2 episodes of The Boys. So there's a lot with The Boys. So we'll keep it kind of short for today, and then we'll talk a little bit more when Cinik has had a chance to see it. But let me pull up my notes. Okay, so I guess we touched on this, so let's go right into it. Right, so The Boys has always been satire, right, and it has a very clear agenda and a very clear place that it's coming from. But I think they like this season to me like it shifts a little bit away from like being really good sats. I mean, it's still good, but that the satire is not there, and it's more in your face. Like we've got like there are cabals, and they're talking about January 6th, and there's there's a deep state like convention and all kinds of insanity. So did you think it was a little too much on the nose this season?
So here's sort of my overall thought. I'll just jump in that. No, I didn't think it was too on the nose. I thought it was a lot of it was very funny. I thought my issue with it was that it took the place of a good plot and a good sort of overall story. That in the first few seasons were very compelling. The satire was an enhancement of the story. Now it is the story. It's like there is just not very there is not a strong plot. You have a few little stories, and you have the same like dialogue between characters, and you introduce a new thing with Huey, and then of course Homelander's son is now and in his sort of battle is becoming a major story, and then you have the vice president. So there's a few things, but overall it's not that intriguing like it was in the first few seasons, where you're like, where does this come? Like where everything is revealed. Mm-hmm. Now it's like I don't even like what's the main story like.
I do think so. I feel like the last few seasons have kind of done this, where and maybe Cinik, you're rewatching seasons 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, we just finished 2.
So in seasons 1 and 2, like, does it feel like, because I haven't rewatched them, but I get the feeling that the story doesn't really start to get kicking. You don't really know what the story is until like you're halfway through the season. Am I right on that? Or did you kind of know in seasons 1 and 2 right away, like what the story was for that season?
No, I agree with you. You're most of the way through the second season before you realize what's going on. Yeah. And even then they kind of leave it a little cliffhanger-ish.
Yeah. So that's why I feel like, because I agree with you, Justin. Like at this point, we're 3 episodes in and we're not really sure what's going on. But what I like about that is I think they're doing a lot of character work and a lot of setting the stage for things right now. So I think that's maybe part of it. Is right now every character, like Cinik, you'll be surprised when you get to this season. Like every character has their own, like there's their main story, and everyone has their own side quest or like their own side plot. And I think that's part of it. So Justin, let me ask you, with so many characters, what do you have a favorite of the new characters? So of the new characters, we've got what is it? We've got wrote this down. Where is this? Okay, Sister Sage, who is the smartest who's the smartest person in the world. You've got a new Black Noir, Firecracker, and then the multiple man. I forget his name, but There's a funny scene with him.
There was one scene. I know we were thinking of the same one. It was just like,
Yes.
oh
God.
my God.
Oh.
There were some very funny lines.
Yeah.
Just like in general, and it's like they do a good job of like referencing all like the right wing MAGA insanity. Like when they kill, like when Homelander kills that one guy, and like his son is like he was a pedophile. It was just like, just use that term. Like it was they not subtly just really hit on everything, and it was very funny and it was spot on. Who was my favorite of the new characters?
I mean, I'll say I like the Sister Sage character.
Sister Sage, I like her. I like Firecracker.
It's
too.
interesting.
I think she's
Firecracker too. Yeah, so Sister Sage is interesting because she doesn't seem to have any physical powers.
She's also only 2 years old. Did I hear that right?
Oh, I don't remember that.
I think she's only 2 years old.
Oh, that's
like
weird.
I thought they said that. Maybe I'm wrong. I think
you misheard that. But
we have to go back and check. That would be funny too.
Yeah, but whatever the case is, so she's like the world's smartest person, and what's interesting is like she and Homelander kind of have this relationship where they kind of need each other, and she's the one person to tell Homelander like what he doesn't want to hear, and she's the one person that can stand up to him because she's smarter than him, and I think he knows she's smarter, but he kind of needs her to enact like his plan. And so it makes for an interesting dynamic because every minute it's like, oh wait, is he going to just kill her or not? But she's like the one type of person you can put up against him because she's so clearly like thinking 10 steps ahead of everybody else, including Homelander. And so you don't ever really know like what her agenda is.
I'm very curious to see what her agenda is because it seems like, well, she would only be doing this if she was a bad person. Right? Yeah. Because she would know what's going on, but is she setting up for something?
At a minimum, she's like and that's the thing with The Boys is like, it does a good job of showcasing like if people had powers, they would probably all be horrible, or 90% of them, and that's just is what it is, and that that's kind of the way that this world is. So now of the main cast, the people that have come back, like I said, everybody's got their own kind of story. What are your thoughts on like the Homelander arc now? Because he's gone from like, he's really gone psychotic, but also like he's kind of dealing with a midlife crisis. So how do you think, like, is that character still interesting to you, or is he kind of growing a little old?
I didn't know. That was one of my least favorite parts, actually. Like that scene where like he's having all the voices go.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't think it adds. It's trying to add depth to his character. I just didn't personally love it. I mean. Mm-hmm. It's almost gets tired. I actually thought the best depth in his character was him gaslighting his own son.
Yeah,
like, that was actually.
Well, yeah, I think that's kind
his
of
MO,
where,
obviously.
I think that might be where the show is going, obviously. And then there's a great cameo of Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in it, and he's kind of trying to convince Butcher that the one person that can attack or fight Homelander basically is his son. And that Ryan is going to end up being the person to save the world against Homelander. So I think, they're kind of setting that up, and that kind of tension between, Ryan and his two bad dads, or, between Butcher and Homelander. But yeah, no, so I guess, what are your thoughts so far, first 3 episodes? Give me kind of a quick review and thoughts on the first. Well, one other scene I thought was hilarious before I get. So what was your favorite fight scene so far? Of all the kind of crazy action scenes? I have a feeling there's one that you like that will stand out.
Remind me of them. The different scenes.
Well, there was the bat mitzvah fight scene. That was one I thought.
That one. That was hilarious. Yeah, that one was hilarious.
There was a marvelous Mrs. Maisel themed bat mitzvah. There were some good ones, but and then there was some that were, and there was like grotesquely violent out of nowhere. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like
awful.
Purpose.
Like the violence is worse than it's ever been. Like it's kind of like the show knows how to take up like both the violence and the
I did enjoy that
creepy
fight scene.
moments up like there's won't give it away, Cinik, because you have to witness this scene like by yourself. But when you see it, you're gonna text.
Yeah,
you'll text us like, "Oh my god, what did I just watch?"
Yeah, that was hilarious. I looked at it, was like, what? It was very funny. That was very hilarious. But yeah, that was a very good fight scene. It was really well done, and it was funny at the end. I'm here at a cabal, right?
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, it's like that's the thing. Is like
they have some very good one-liners.
A lot. Like what the show does is on the nose, especially with a lot of the political stuff, but it's done so funny that it's kind of, it's like you just go with it. So yeah, so 3 episodes in, give me your kind of final thoughts.
So my overall thing, however, while I enjoyed that, I felt like it took the place of the overall story rather than enhancing it. So far, I'm only going to give it about a 6 on my rating, because I'm not as intrigued. Yes, even though we didn't know what was really going on in the first couple seasons, and it took a while to actually reveal where this all comes from, we were being introduced to this world and these new characters. Now we're no longer introduced to this. And while there's a couple new characters, we're not. The world isn't new. The concepts aren't new. So it's just not as intriguing. Like for the first few seasons, I was really intrigued. Like, where is this all going? Now I'm sort of like, okay, it's like, yeah, this is funny, but it's just, I thought it was funny, but it was a little boring at the same time, because it just wasn't. I wasn't dying to get to the next episode. Yeah. Basically, like I have to watch it to see what happens. It's. Another thing is, and I paid attention. I actually went back and I watched it, but I sort of purposely stopped listening or paying attention, and then started watching to see if I felt like I missed anything. How tightly scripted is it? And really, like, if you can miss parts and it doesn't really affect it too much, and that is not a good sign, because with something that's tightly scripted, you need to pay attention. Yeah. So, and granted, I did go back and I realized, okay, the couple of things I missed, but it didn't pay that huge of an impact, and for me, that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I think I agree that, but like we said, like the first couple episodes is all kind of table setting. I do think so. A show like this, it's constantly trying to one up itself, and it does, but you get to the point where it's like diminishing returns, and like you can only see so much gore and so much sexual insanity until it's like, okay, So what I like is, I think with announcing that season 5 is going to be the last season, it gives us an end game. And I think that's what the show needs. Like we know this world, and it's funny, and yeah, it could go on for 10 years and we have ridiculousness, but it's not going to be as engaging, and you're not going to.
So I think what this, the show is doing a good job now of set, and it does set up the end game here, right? We know what the stakes are. We understand Butcher's only got so much time. They need to stop Homelander. Newman's, about to become president. Like, you have all these, the tables are set, right? Ryan is possibly going to be trained to be the person to go after Homelander. So I think they've done a good job of setting the table. And so I just want to see them see that through. Now we know, okay, we got 2 more seasons, season and a half or whatever. So I was okay with it. I think I like these first 3 episodes. I think it did what it needs to do, right? To set the world, set the stage. The story's not, amazing yet, but I think I think there's a lot of room and a lot of time to get there. Yeah, I'm enjoying it, and it's fun.
It's fun,
and it's batshit crazy, and I do like the Homelander. Just how psychotic he is and how unhinged he is. Oh, I loved my favorite.
Well, I mean, he was basically Trump. It's like they're basically. Yeah. I mean,
what if Trump had powers as Superman? And what's amazing, the best cameo maybe ever is Tilda Swinton plays I think it's Ambrosius, the Deep's octopus lover. Yeah. And it's amazing. Like, you heard the voices, like one of the great actors of our time is playing an octopus. Like, that's the boys. Like, at the end of the day, that is the boys. Like, and there's some great stuff. The stuff with Black Noir is great.
It's funny. Yeah. What's my motivation?
So,
he's an actor. It's very funny.
There's some really good stuff there. So I think the show, it's doing a really good job so far. And, we'll see. Obviously it can go off the rails. But every season's been good. And I love the way that it's starting. And it's hilarious. And there's just so much going on that I just hope they're able to pull everything together.
All right, cool. So let's get to season 2, episode 1 of House of the Dragon. So we were excited about it. Cinik and I, we did our review or recap of season 1.
Where was the other guy for that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
He
Still
did, he
hasn't
did
watched
not
it,
do
by the
his
way.
homework.
He did
From-
not.
So, and he still hasn't done his homework.
No, he's
I
already
started.
smiling
I
like
started.
the cat that stole the
Started
canary.
his homework, yeah.
Hey, it's
So-
like, look, I'm the one who's in the enviable position that, like, I get to watch another, like, I get to watch it from the beginning. I get
Yeah,
to
that's
enjoy
true.
it, right?
Good point.
So, like, I'm eager to, like, jump in. It's like, oh, I get to watch another Game of Thrones. It's like, how lucky can one be? But it's just not always easy to catch up on a whole show in a week.
So anyway, so on to season, so the episode, the intro, which has always been interesting, right? The intro to Game of Thrones is awesome. Intro to season 1 of House of the Dragon was okay, but not, it's hard to live up to Game of Thrones. What do you think, Cinik, of the intro to season 2? So it was a tapestry this time that kind of told the history of the Targaryens. I thought it was beautifully done. What were your thoughts on that intro?
Yeah, I like that, and I guess that it was signifying that everybody that has been born or is going to be born that has been born. So now they're moving on to a different phase where they're kind of like sewing together the family tree, which I really enjoyed that. I mean, I thought like the pictures on the quilt or tapestry or whatever they're making there could have been a little clearer, but overall it was an interesting change, and I picked it up 3 seconds into the start.
Yeah, it was nicely done. Like I thought it looked cool. And yeah, like how it weaves in the family tree, and the fact that kind of like that the original series did, where each episode you could get a different intro based on where they were going. You can continue to play with the tapestry, and as things happen, continue to weave more into it. So I like it. I really like the idea and its kind of uniqueness. So the episode begins in Winterfell. Prince Jason is treating with Kragan Stark at the wall. Did you get a little bit of like the nostalgia feels seeing that?
I loved everything about that. Like I was kind of like elbowing my wife. I'm like, look, it's Winterfell. Look, they're going to the wall. Listen, I'm a mark. I mean, much like Tatooine for me is Star Wars, to me Winterfell is Game of Thrones. Yeah. And the fact that they cast an actor that kind of just encompassed everything that it is to be a Stark, and him holding ice on his back, and all the Easter eggs that accompanied that. I absolutely loved it, and I'm excited to hear that he's going to play a bigger part in the story in seasons to come. So that does excite me a little bit. Like I'm 100% Team Stark.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's like it kind of it's interesting because having watched those first the original series, like when you get the little the Lannisters or the Starks or these houses that we know, you get a little like, oh yeah, I know that. That's from the old show. So it's cool to kind of get that, and it was fun to see them on the wall. And it's interesting just with kind of a couple years better CGI, how it just looks more imposing and things just look a little bit better. So it's really cool that and speaking of that, what were your thoughts on the visuals this episode? Just overall, there's some great amazing scenes, but what were your thoughts on just how the cinematography was for this season?
I mean, it's off to a fast start as far as storytelling, as far as visually, as far as it just feels like, even though it's not the same group of people doing the show, that the show's kind of matured and moved forward as far as quality.
Yeah. So as the show starts, Rhaenyra is kind of still mourning her son's death, and we're kind of on the brink of war. And they do an interesting thing where basically in this episode, the women seem to be the cooler heads. Like Rhaenys is kind of talking down Daemon, and even Alicent is kind of trying to stop Aegon and Aemon from going all out war, where the men seem to be the ones ready to fight. At this point, before we get to what happens at the end of the episode, where are you at? Do you think it's like let's just go to war, or do you think the women are making sense? Like
I think war at this point is unavoidable. Once that once the dragon chomped down on her son, I think that there is no turning back from that. And the fact that the who was Aemon came home and didn't just mea culpa, like, yeah, it was an accident. He's playing it off like, yeah, I did that shit. Yeah. So I don't see a world where Rhaenyra can let that go.
Yeah. And it does seem like the season, I mean, the show in general is just like a series of just mistakes or miscommunications that just get out of hand. You know, it's like just one thing after the next where like they're going to go to all out war and untold death, you know, over just things that like maybe if you just communicated a little bit better, we could have solved everything.
Well, communication is the death of every single relationship. If you don't talk to each other, you're bound to lose. And I think it's the same thing. But it's not only that; it's it's communication, and it's about power. You know, the untold power of being in the Iron Throne. I think will drive any group of people to just want to destroy each other.
So in this episode, so when we're at the kind of at the Red Keep, you have Kristen Cole and Alicent who are having an affair of their own at this point. Did it did it drive you crazy or strike you just how hypocritical they are? Because both of them, it was a massive issue between them and Rhaenyra that she, you know, like that you know, in Alicent's case that she basically, you know, or really Kristen Cole, it's like you made me break my vow, and she was upset with Rhaenyra for, you know, for sleeping with him, like, and making him break his vow. Like, why like do they not see that they're hypocrites?
It wasn't about the bow. It was about the fact that he didn't end up with the girl. He's a bad breaker-upper. I mean, we've all done it, where we're mad about one thing when it's completely the fact that we lost out on whatever we were having sex with. Kristen Cole he's definitely a hypocrite. I think Alicent, it's more the fact that she doesn't have a place in all this anymore. No one's listening to her. Everyone's mocking her. She's lost her best friend. Now she's lost her husband. And it seems like she's lost pretty much the respect and the ear of the Greens. So she's kind of, you know, she was in a relationship. She wasn't getting much physical attention because her husband was falling apart piece by piece. And I know that feeling. And I just feel like she's kind of acting out on the one thing that she can have. But I also think she's the creepy clubfoot guy is definitely going to box her in because of this.
Yeah. Now, do you think that he's do you think he will you know, do you think he's jealous, and will he do things to you know, will he act against her out of jealousy?
Well, it looks like he's already angling himself to become the next Hand of the King. Yeah. So yeah, I honestly do. I mean, he was even kind of talking smack about her to the king already. So yeah, I think he's moved past shooting loads on her feet, and he's has higher aspirations.
Yeah, seriously. So now Aegon is actually really interesting to me in this episode. Like he's, you know, he's obviously like kind of still a petulant child in a lot of ways. But he also, and there are several moments like, wow, he's a dick. But then there are moments where he shows like he actually seems to care for the small folk. So like, what are your thoughts on his kind of character and what they've done with him so far this season? It's like in this first episode.
He just encompasses everything that we see, like somebody that is out of their depth, well above their station. You know, he's sitting on that throne listening to the complaints of the small folk, and he's just like, yeah, sure, take your sheep back. Yeah, sure, you know, we'll give you money, you know, and you can just see Otto roll in his eyes because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And he probably could sit there for the next 100 years and not know what he's doing because he's not an overly intelligent guy. He's kind of the goof of the family. And yeah, it was really rough to watch. I mean, I have a feeling after the events that happened at the end of the episode, maybe he'll start taking this a little seriously. But bring in your kid to work day, you know, having him ride on the Lannisters' back for fun. You know, none of it was very kingly.
Yeah. Well, I did think it was hilarious when they're like when the guys were with him, it was like, you know, whatever, Aegon the Magnanimous, and he's like, magnanimous, and then they kind of pull back and joke about that a little later when he's like drunk complaining to them. So there was actually some funny lines in this episode as well.
Yeah, Aegon himself was hilarious. You know, the incompetency on the throne.
Just when you get to the horse riding scene, reminds me of a scene in The Boys also, where I won't give it up because it's also a hilarious moment, but where with Homelander and the Deep and A-Train. Yeah, so there's a scene. Yeah, so the scenes kind of mirror each other in ways. One is a little more silly, the other one's a little more serious. But yeah, this is what is up. All right, so Justin, so far, is any of this making any sense to you?
Not at all.
Okay, good. Well, maybe not. Won't be.
I was zoning out into how I can pull out a win against Cinik this week.
Yeah, that's not going to happen for you, sir.
Yeah. So
what if what if I in person go and injure your players? Like,
I mean, if you want to pull a Kenny Powers and try to club somebody, I mean, I'll hold the phone for you if you want. You know, if you need video evidence of
it'll be going
your
real.
attempt.
That's going real far to win a fantasy league.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. All right, so Damon, who believes a son for a son, hatches a plan to assassinate Aegon's son. Or well, no, he hatches a plan to assassinate what's the Aemond, right? Is the second?
That's what I'm talking about last week about the names being too close.
So,
If it was Steve, we wouldn't be having a problem.
Yeah, exactly. So he hatches a plan to murder Aemond, and sends blood assassins known as Blood and Cheese. I don't know if they're known as that in the show or if they mention it in the show, but they are like kind of in the books. They're Blood and Cheese. And they make it into the castle. They get to Aemond's quarters. They don't find him there. They do find Princess Helena and her 2 kids, and they decide, well, a son for a son. And so they ask her to point out the heir to the Iron Throne, Aemond's son, and there's a pretty rough scene where they murder a kid. So Cinik, was this the most brutal scene in Game of Thrones / House of the Dragon history?
They could kill 100 kids, and it's never going to equate to the Red Wedding for me, because I didn't have any feelings one way or the other about the kid. They tried to pull this trick where they tried to make us like him in the few scenes that he was in, but I'm anti-kid to begin with, so I kind of was a little happy that he won't be taking the Iron Throne.
I would say it's not the gut punch that the Red Wedding were.
No, because we didn't know him.
Yeah,
you know, we met him 5 minutes ago.
No,
and obviously you never want to see a kid murdered, but if it is, let it be the one you just met.
I think, it might be the most brutal to me though. Like the Red Wedding is the biggest gut punch, but like for this one, I mean, it's like literally you hear the kid screaming and the slicing of his throat or whatever they're doing to him. While
they stayed with it a little long.
Yeah, and the mother has to make the choice. She has to decide which of her kids is going to be killed. She lies.
Mom of the year.
Chooses the wrong kid, or chooses, lies, and then they catch her, and then they kill the kid they intended to kill.
No. She actually told the truth.
Oh, she did tell the truth.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then
she pointed because she pointed at the son. Yeah. That's who they were looking for, and that was Mom of the year over there.
Yeah. Well, so and then she runs, and then she finds her mom having sex with Kristen Cole again, and that's the end of the episode. So, like I think it was pretty brutal. So, Cinik, what your final thoughts on the episode, and your rating so far?
Oh, listen, it's got to be a 10. I mean, any show that they kill kids, I'm all for. No. I mean, it's off to a great start. It lived up to its hype. I mean, we saw a lot of the promotional stuff in different cities, especially in New York.
I wish I brought my camera. There's a dragon on the Empire State Building. Right now.
I saw that, which I think is just fucking amazing that this show has gotten that kind of eyes on it, where we can do mass advertising like that. HBO is definitely throwing the weight of the network behind it, and rightfully so. I mean, this was a masterclass in storytelling, and the end of it was a little brutal, but I mean, much like The Boys, we know what we're signing up for when we watch Game of Thrones. Acting was great. All the actors came back with their faces all attached, unlike The Boys. Her saying that she didn't have any plastic surgery done is just ridiculous, but we'll get to that when I actually see the show. I mean, I loved it. It's 10s across the board for me for the first episode, at least.
Yeah. Do you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My computer is acting really weird. Okay. Sorry, let me just... What is going on? Oh, I can't mark this. Weird. Okay. So I would agree. I'm maybe not 10, but I'll give it a solid 9.5. It's a really good first episode. I don't know that there's much that I would that could have been done better. It had a lot to do to bring us up to speed. The only thing that took me out of it a little bit, and there's not much you can do, is so the show takes place, days after the events of season 1, but clearly the actors have all aged significantly because these are, a lot of these are kid actors. So like, 1 year, 2 years for them is pretty significant. So it's that part, like Justin, if you'll be watching it, you're going to see like at episode 10 to 11, like a massive age jump, even though it's like the next day practically.
Yeah, I think it's 10 or 11 days. But
yeah.
I know one kid that won't age in the next episode.
Yeah.
Now,
Listen,
so,
Ryan,
what do you think?
Go ahead.
So what do you when I finally get to it? What do you predict my rating will be?
I think you'll give it a solid.
Knowing that I'm a
I'd say
harsh rater, apparently.
You give it an 8.
Yeah, it's on the Justin curve. It's probably about a 6.5.
Yeah,
because there is no making this guy happy.
Yeah, seriously.
But I mean, Ryan, don't be afraid to shoot your load early because we are only getting 8 episodes. The good that's the bad news. The good news is they're already in production for the 3rd season. Yep. So maybe we only have to wait a year for that, which that kind of makes me happy.
That'd be great. Yeah. No, but I'd say solid 9.5. Great first episode. Sets things up. The ending is brutal. And as good of an ending as you can expect for something like this, because now we know, like it they're going to war, and the kind of pieces are all in place, and so I think it does great character work, great performances, funny when it has to be funny, which is a great thing with Game of Thrones. It's always at its best when it it's always adding a layer of humor to everything. So yeah, a solid episode, and super excited to see things going forward. I know we've been talking for a while about like, this month we're going to get Game of Thrones, or get House of the Dragon, The Boys, and the Acolyte, and easily, The Boys is really good, but Acolyte, but House of the Dragon's been so far the best of the 3 by far. So that is it. We'll be back next week talking about all 3. Hopefully Justin and Cinik will have caught up on everything. Although my bets are Cinik catching up to The Boys. I would bet on that before Justin catching up by next week, but we'll see.
He's a man about town, and he's probably going to go through a bit of a depression when his team tanks
and stuff to do. So,
well, look, like if I owned the fantasy league and I didn't actually have to make moves, then I would have plenty of time to watch TV, and but some of us are actually trying to win without the help of outside hands. I'm just saying.
Well,
throwing it out there.
At least he's consistent.
All right. Well, yeah. So as usual, everything's on portablehopepublishing.com. We have some cool stuff. If you have not subscribed yet, you can go onto the website, subscribe to our newsletter, which we will start in earnest in July. So we got the newsletter, still workshopping some names I'll throw by you guys, but that will be starting up soon. And I got a couple cool projects working on that we should be able to announce soon. So that's it as usual. Justin, until next time.
Watch out for the hole.